It's the Tuesday evening edition of the Valley's most in-depth geeky weather forecast video. This is our daily look at the weather past, present, and future for much of Northeast Ohio and Western PA. And of course, we focus in these videos mostly on the Youngstown area, but we look on a national and global scale when need be. Focusing in on the local today, of course, the big story was the warmth. It's not often we break a record high by 9 degrees. That was our forecast, and it came to fruition. We actually nailed the temperature forecast right on the money today. Got to 77 this afternoon. The previous record of 68, that record was broken before the morning was through. Again, pretty amazing stuff for any time of the year, but let alone in the quote-unquote cold weather season, to break a record high like this is pretty amazing. Some other stats with the warmth today. Now, from November 10th through the end of the year, we've in recorded history, never had a temperature as warm as today. So the latest temperature, or the warmest temperature this late in the year, in any calendar year, going back to 1930. Overall, when we look at the month of November, it is the warmest November day since 2003, and the 6th warmest November temperature on record, I should say. And again, we have pretty good temperature records at the airport going back to 1930. There's real spotty temperature records in the late 1800s, but the most consistent period of record really starts in the early 1930s for our area. All right, just like clockwork, whenever I talk about weather history and the fact that a lot of our warm weather records date back to the 1930s, a lot of them were set in the 1930s. I'm going to get some comments from some science deniers and climate change deniers that, what about the global warming in the 30s? No one was talking about it then. Those sorts of comments. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you're weather savvy and science savvy enough to know that that's not a claim based in science, just based on these maps alone. This is as good of an illustration as I can come up with to show that climate change is a modern phenomena in the last handful of decades. Really wasn't much of a story in the early part of the 20th century. Yes, the eastern U.S. was warm not only in November 1931, which is our warmest November on record, but also throughout much of the 1930s. The central and eastern U.S. baked, but that didn't mean it was baking all over the globe. In fact, a lot of the globe was cooler than average in November of 1931 and in other months in the 1930s. Then you compare it to the most recent decade when the entire world is basically on fire. It's really no contest. And, if you've been watching these videos for a while, you've heard me make this analogy before. We can't say that it was 77 degrees today because of climate change. We can't draw that direct link to individual weather events like that. But we can say that the change in climate loads the odds, loads the dice in favor of weather extremes, whether it be precipitation extremes, temperature extremes. It increases the odds of those things occurring. I oftentimes make the analogy to baseball back in the 1990s when home runs were flying out of ballparks, and it turns out that a lot of the big stars in the late 1990s, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, they were all on steroids. Now, every home run that was hit by Mark McGwire in 1998 was not because he was on steroids. Not everyone was because of that. Some of those home runs would have occurred anyway. But because he was on performance-enhancing drugs, every pitch, the odds of any pitch when he's at the plate going out of the park are higher. A lot of times he struck out. But the odds of that pitch being turned into a home run were higher. And it's the same thing with global climate change. All right, back here in terms of sensible weather in the near term. Showers and even some thunderstorms and even some severe weather today off to our west. And then on the cold side of this system, it's snowing at a pretty good clip up in Minneapolis this evening. And look at the temperature change with this front. Still pushing 70 in the Windy City right now with those thunderstorms pushing through. But then Des Moines 35, and where the snow is falling, it's 28 in Minneapolis, where there are winter storm warnings out. It was in the 70s not long ago in the Twin Cities, and now they have winter storm warnings. Timing of the rain around here, I'm not expecting severe weather around here, but showers will push in very late tonight, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. As most people head off to work at school, it'll still be trying to rain a little bit. Nothing all that heavy, I think, by daybreak. And so our hourly rain chances during the daylight hours Wednesday peak first thing in the morning, with decreasing chances throughout the rest of the morning. And by the afternoon, clouds should try to thin out. All right, so rainfall totals advertised on the modeling here, they've kind of congealed right around a half an inch. On average, as far as the rain you can expect late tonight into tomorrow morning. Temperatures will be at their highest first thing in the morning, 6, 7 a.m. They'll back off into the upper 50s as our front moves through mid-morning. Temperatures may actually then try to rise a couple of additional degrees. We'll kind of bob around 60 or so around lunchtime. And then we'll see a more pronounced slide later in the afternoon, ending up in the mid-50s by sunset. And then that'll set the stage for a cooler but quiet night tomorrow night. Maybe some fog early Thursday. Thursday afternoon, high pressure is almost right overhead. Mostly sunny sky. And we've got a breezy but partly to mostly sunny day coming up on Friday. This cold front will come through dry, no precipitation with it, but there will be a gusty breeze. All right, we've got more rain in the forecast for the end of the weekend on Sunday. Saturday will be a chilly but dry start to the weekend. Some showers for Sunday, and actually pretty decent little trough will dig into the northeastern U.S. by Sunday and early next week, but it's just going to pay a brief visit. This is not going to be a trough that sticks around very long. And so while a pretty significant cool down is coming early next week, accompanied by some gusty winds and maybe even some snowflakes seen from time to time, that trough gets kicked away pretty quickly, and we're back to a little bit more of a zonal flow. In fact, a pretty decent ridge across the southern tier of the U.S. means that the mild air compared to average will return. The 70s will not return, but the mild air compared to average will return. And that means we'll probably see, as in the run-up to Thanksgiving, a lot of days with highs, at least in the upper 40s, if not the 50s, which, again, in the run-up to Thanksgiving is above the average. By the time Thanksgiving rolls around, our average highs are in the mid-40s. So mild days in late November mean something quite a bit different than mild days in late September and early October. That'll do it for me tonight. Thanks for watching tonight's weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you right back here, same time, same place on Wednesday.